I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. It's Sunday morning. I'm going to do some more work on this Waltham watch. As you can see, I've got my D-Cave. Pow! My D-Cave Bulova retro watch on my wrist, and on the other wrist I have a Apple Titanium. So given to me by my son, S-O-N. So here we have a very old and very nice Waltham pocket watch. So this little baby is a Waltham in a Salesman's case. I would say it's valued a bit more because it's in a Salesman's case, but the Salesman's case is a snap-on case, so that would bring it down a bit in value because of that, right? So this here is a plastic crystal in the back. You can tell by tapping it whether it's plastic or not, and that feels like it's I don't know, it might be plastic in the front too. Kind of feels a bit like a glass crystal, but this one's definitely plastic. So the first thing we're going to do here on this watch is, other than looking at it and saying it's actually a pretty watch, right, is we're going to take off the hands so we don't have any issues. Now the problem with this watch is it doesn't seem to the hands don't seem to want to move. So this might, I'm not sure if this is even repairable because of that, but I'm going to take a shot at it. So I've got a couple of hand or case removers here. I'm going to grab my better one. I think I've got a really nice one. I'm trying to figure out where I put it. Let me see. Where did I put this case opener? Should I give up on this or keep trying? It's a beautiful case opener, and I can't find it. Oh my God, what am I doing? It's somewhere. I know where it used to be, and it's not where it used to be. So it's been moved. So probably by gremlins. I heard gremlins were invented in World War II by pilots to make excuses for mistakes made in the air. So this is what I heard. I think it was yesterday. I was watching some crazy TV show, and they said that. Anyway, let's have a look at this thing and see if I can do anything about this. So let's just get in here and get the case, the top of the case off, so I can remove the hands. You gotta be very careful if this is not. Yeah, that feels like plastic as well. They both feel like plastic, not glass. You can tell when it's crystal. Actually, if you look at the bevel on that's not how crystal is cut. So it's definitely plastic. The other thing is I'm going to have a little harder time getting the hands off on this one here. So I might use my smaller hand removers. And only because I can't move the hands here. So, and I want to get these hands off first, and I think I can very carefully remove these hands without having to worry about a piece of plastic. Or should I get my little piece of plastic? I'm talking away from the mic today, just a bit. Clear my throat. And I think just before we start, I'm going to show you, this is what a plastic crystal, that's glass. So that crystal is glass. They call it mineral, I guess, when you're buying a watch. They call this mineral. This is one of my older ones. I've got bags of these crystals. I'm talking actually bags. And I've tried to figure out a way of cutting these things, these darn things, so that I could reuse them, right? Or I could use them. So how do I cut those crystals? And I have a crystal cutter, but it's not made for cutting. It's a glass cutter, not made for cutting crystals, but made for cutting glass. So I'll be a good boy here and put some protective paper over the top of this. I only need one slice, so, and this is just to protect the face of the watch while you're doing this. And the thing you got to do here is go straight up. If you go straight up, there shouldn't be issues. And there we go. And then with the I remove these, and I typically put those kind of parts into where the crystal is in the front, and just very carefully lift that up and drop it down. And now these ones here, I could use my broader hand removers, which are these ones right here, which are pretty wide. They protect the face a bit better. But let's see if I can get under here and not put any stress on the arms of this watch. Yeah, that worked. Of course, I kind of knew it would work, but again, you never know. So there's a difference between working on your own watches and working on someone else's watches. And the big difference, is you need to be, when you're working on your own watches, you screw it up, you just get pissed off, go downstairs, watch a movie, have a drink. If you work on someone else's watch, there's more stress because it's their watch, and usually it means something to them. And you don't want to screw it up. So there's a bit more stress doing that. This is not a lever set, as you can see. There's no lever there at all. No, leave it to beaver. Lever bedeaver. So that's not a lever set watch. And I get my gel pad out here. It'd be good. And I love that gel pad. And again, the back here, I think they made these non-glass because when you take the back this off, if it's a snap-on case like this, then there's less chance of the glass actually cracking, right? So I'm trying to open this up here and be very deliberate. There we go. That's not easy to open, but if it's plastic, sure, drop it. If it's plastic, it's not going to crack. It can twist a bit and deform without actually cracking. If it's glass, there's a chance that thing will crack, right? So here it is here. It looks like there's a lot of spring movement here. So I think there's going to be a challenge here with the stem. It will wind, but and there we go. So pull it out like that. And I can see it's putting stress on the movement somehow, because I can see the escapement moving when I turn this, and it shouldn't be. It should be just the hands that do the job. So we'll see what's going on here. What kind of nonsense is going on with this. So let's just get the movement out for a second here. I believe it's completely, let me just make sure I got no power left on this at all. I'm just going to move that up out of the way and just drop the power down on it a bit. Yeah, I did like a 2-click wind on it or something, so I don't think there's any power on that anymore. And the gel pad is really handy because it can protect the watch, etc., with the pad. And when you're taking the screws out, you take them out until you feel that a little click, and that's when the thread runs out. So you're not worried at all about damaging anything that way. You just sort of pull it out like that. Try not to slip your screwdrivers. There, I felt a little tick there, and then you pull the screw right out. These are K screws, and so this should come up and out without a problem. There we go. And I'm going to have to check this out here because this seems like super loose, slack basically. And I'm curious whether with bench keys, these are bench keys by the way, I'm curious whether with bench keys can I set the watch. So then is it a stem issue or not? I need a smaller bench key here. Try that one there. There we go. Yeah, so that watch, if I look at if you look at the hand there, you can see that moving right now, and that's with no pressure on the watch itself, right? So there's no pressure at all, and it moves. Now if I push in like that, it's going to wind. So it's working perfectly. So this is a total crown and stem issue. So there's actually an issue with the depth here, or the crown and stem, or maybe there's a mechanism in there that's adjustable, and so I'm going to end up having to take the crown off here and play with that. And the depth of the stem going in has to be absolutely perfect. So if I pull out on this thing to actually set the time, and the stem doesn't go out enough. The stem doesn't go out far enough on the watch, which I don't think it does. Then I'm not going to be able to set it. So I got a tool I can use to actually stick in there, and then I turn that, and it actually adjusts the depth, right? So I can play with that. So it still clicks out, but I can play with it anyway. So that's probably how I'll fix that, which is, good. So if I were to wind this watch now and watch it, the question is, is it going to run well, or no, it's not. So here is a situation where you just look at this. Some people call it overbanked. It's not overbanked. It's when the impulse jewel is on the wrong side of the palate fork. So, and that can be caused by many things. The thing that caused it on the other watch I'm working on, where I'm making that liquid shellac, is the jewel was loose, and so it went up, and then it went up, and then it was out of the mouth of the palate fork. Obviously, was able to jump out, and then there was an issue there. So that's what happened with that watch, right? Amazing. I decided to move the camera a little bit closer. So this is a Bergeron 5395 pad. If you want to buy one of those, and it's a 75N, so they're gel pads, which are pretty darn cool, right? And I have to get my Myers number 58 movement holder to continue with this effort. But the first thing we're going to do before we continue is I'm touching the edge of the watch right now, so I should probably have some gloves on. But I want to remove the face just to get that out of the way. And there's face screws on the side here. They're very small, and you got to get the right size screwdriver in there for the face screws. If it's too big or too small, it's not right. You just have to get the right size. Not too big, not too small, just the size of Montreal. That used to be the rhyme. It's the same rhyme that was with when you hear people go, liar, liar, pants on fire. That's I think, not De Niro, the other guy. Liar, liar, pants on fire. So I'm trying to keep an eye on what I'm doing here so I don't strip the screw inadvertently. Alright, let's go to the other screw. When in doubt, move screws. I'm going to have to get a little bit closer to my work here in a second, because I'm not close enough. Alright, so that screw's good. And then this one here, I'm doing this with the balance in, but I'm keeping a very close eye on the balance itself, so it's not in the way, basically. But usually I take the balance out before I do all this nonsense, which I probably should do right now. That way it's out of the way and it's not going to cause me a problem, right? So I'm going to just remove that balance really quickly. And I like to put a little bit of, I can do it with my tweezers, but put a little pressure on the balance, so when it's removed, I check the screwdriver and check how it's sitting in the hole, and then I just put a little bit of pressure on the balance like that when I'm loosening the screw. I usually do that when it's in the number 56, 58, 52 hike number 58 movement holder, so I don't destroy anything. So I can just lift this up now, I think, without a problem, and then just tilt it sideways. And guess what? The face came off too, which is nice. And I just noticed something with the face. Let me just put this in the tray, which is a tray good thing to do. That's bad French. So I'm going to there we go. Let me lower that into the tray. Sorry for you seeing my arm there for a second, but I'm just trying to grab the balance upside down like this. Just grabbing it like this upside down and then placing it in the tray so it's safe, because it might be in there for a little while. But I just noticed something, that one of the legs, one of the dial feet is broken. So, and as you saw what I did, I'm not the cause of this, by the way, because I just had it upside down and then dropped out, and so the dial foot actually broke. So now I can solder on another dial foot. What do you think? This could be part of the adventure this time, right? But let's just get rid of some of this stuff here. So get rid of the hour wheel, get that out of the way. Get the very carefully remove the minute wheel, and one of the little tiny dial screws came out, so I got to see which one that was. So I want to screw these back in just a bit so I don't lose them. That's the trick. That is the trick, my friends. You just screw them in so they're snug. You don't have to screw them in like, you don't have to do the Arnold Schwarzenegger dial screw in. Just do it so they're snug. I'm going to have to get lower here because I'm hovering above my work right now. It's nice and relaxing actually, but this is the one that's the guilty one right here, and I'm trying to see if I go all the way in here, can I see with a pin? I'm trying to figure out which one of these dial feet came from where. Now I could just actually turn them around and have a look, right? So this is like a metal dial too, so this would go like, get a look at where the pivot is here, so it would go like that, and it's this dial foot right here. So it's the one in the corner here, and that's the one that's missing. That dial foot right there, and that corner right there. So we're going to have to do some dial foot soldering. So I have to ask Chris, has he done that one yet? Have you dial foot soldered yet? Because if you haven't, that's one thing I've done that you haven't done, even though you've done everything else that I've done. And more, maybe. So Chris is a pretty nice guy. So that is something that, see if I can just clip up the cannon pinion off the top here. Of course it doesn't work. Trying to grip it but not too hard. I'm going to get my cannon pinion remover. This is probably my best tool ever. I have another tool coming in the mail. I hate to say it, but I do. And just watch where you're gripping this, because you don't want to get it in the way of anything that's super important and cause a problem. And this, drop it. Come on, drop. See, there it is there. It's kind of hanging. I'll just throw that down like that. So the cannon pinion is out. And it's funny, the pivot here is actually protected a bit by the center wheel as it goes down, because if you look at the edge to the center wheel, it doesn't look like there's the ability of the pivot wheel to actually touch the ground. So I'm going to do something that I don't normally do with these watches, is I'm going to run the train. And I'll show you how that's done, because somebody asked me, what is running the train? So it's I'm going to do that. So as I said before, I'm distracting myself a little bit. The dial that's broken here is the dial foot is this one right here. And what I wanted to do is, where the screw is, I wanted to make sure there is no leftover dial in there. And there isn't. It's just the edge of the screw that's in there. And I'll look at that really carefully here. And yeah, there's no dial foot in there at all. So that's good news, I think. I think it's good news. So now I can solder in another dial foot onto this watch, and I haven't done them in a while, so I'm going to have to do some test dial feet before I do that. But let me get my number 58 Myers movement holder and get this thing properly secured. So here's the number 58 movement holder, and I think, see, as it says Myers number 58 movement holder, patent number XYZ. So these things are selling for like $350 US on eBay, which is crazy. I was lucky to get one years ago, and I've been using it 4 years. So, and it's really good. So first of all, you make sure there's nothing you're going to squish, right? Then I want to make sure that that I can wind this watch. So I'll move it over like this, so that in the opening, you press this little button on the side here and snug it up. So, and as you can see with this movement holder, if I just point here for a second, you can see the angle right here on this movement holder kind of ensures that this movement will never fall out. So, and then once you have it in here and you turn it, this device is spring loaded on the inside. You see how that moves? And that also ensures that the grip on the movement is not too hard, and you're not going to have a big problem with the with squishing the movement. If this is a lever set movement, you've got to make sure you don't squish the lever when you put that in. So just keep an eye on the edges of this movement as you put this in. So I'm just putting some of my tools away here. So what I want to do is I'm going to do this. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to take out the pallet fork and and see if I can run the train, and I'll show you what running the train is. Now, Mr. Chris Spinner, who's a colleague of mine in watchmaking, said that when you run the train, it should run smooth, and it should, when it stops, it should come to an abrupt stop. So I'm just removing the screws for the bridge for the pallet fork here, and I can put that, I think, in the center here. And the second bridge I'm going to remove here. I'm going to get my stick out that I keep advertising, the Bergeron 7010 polyamide stick, Polymade, and I use that because when I take out this bridge here on the edge here, I want to make sure that I have control, and I don't snap the pivot by the bridge coming out at an angle. So I just put the stick down here lightly, and then I can turn these screws. They're not too deep, I just noticed. I'm pulling the screws out and they're not deep at all. This is not, maybe they've been replaced once in their lifetime. Might make it difficult to remove this, but what I'm going to do is pick the whole thing up. There we go. So there's the bridge, and I'll throw that in the case, and let me get the pallet fork out of the way. Very carefully, have a look at it. Seems like it's in decent condition. The only thing here, I think, that I'm seeing is that in the base of this pallet fork, the guard finger looks a bit screwed up a bit. So you look at that guard finger on the pallet fork, and it's coming out both sides. See that? So if I take that guard finger and with a needle just push on it, is it going to go back the other way? And if it is, that means I need to re-shellac the guard finger somehow. Yeah, because it should not be doing that. Yeah, that looks like it's kind of, something's funky with the guard finger, so that's another note. So just before I lose my memory here, I'm going to let me take this piece of paper here and write some notes, and that way I don't have to rely on memory, right? So, and I'm going to spell the way I want to spell. Okay, guard, G-U-A-R-D, G-U-A-R-D, finger, G-E-R. So I got to adjust the guard finger. Have a look at that. Then I have to deal with the stem and crown. So the stem depth. That's an issue with this watch. So I got two things so far. Now I'm going to run the train. Now the watch has not been cleaned. So running the train on a watch that's not clean is probably not going to be as smooth as it would be if you were running it. So all you do is you take out the pallet fork, and then you put your bench key in here and you give it one little wind here. So I just go like this, and you can see how that and if I just put my device here very lightly on here, right, it will, and I wind it, try to give you a look here, but you'll see the main wheel, center wheel turn a bit. But if I do that and just put a little tiny bit of pressure, wind that like that, and then let it go, and it stopped. abruptly, which is what Chris Spinner said, make sure it stops abruptly. No. So, and he's right. And I think I knew that, but you forget things, so it's a good tip from Chris there. And we had our little ta-da, to-do-do-da. So that's good. So I ran the train, and the power definitely was going from the mainspring through to the escapement without a problem. So I can put this away now, and there's no pressure left on from the mainspring. It's completely unwound, dewoundified, and now I can strip down the rest of the watch. So the first thing I want to do is remove the ratchet wheel here, right? So let me I'm going to get a glove on because I'm going to be getting pretty deep and dirty with this watch. So I just want to get one of my gloves on, and I want to put some of my stuff away because it can be pretty messy if you just start working on the watch, and before you know it, your whole bench is full of crap. So you got to move stuff out of the way. So now my videos, someone was saying your videos, I just chat while I'm doing my work. Just Bugs Bunnied my glove. Because that's the way I am. And one guy said he was impressed on how I could talk and do this at the same time. Well, I think that's the way I play guitar too. So get the right size screwdriver, and I'm going to put that in here like that. And I want to put a little bit of pressure on the top of that so I can back this off like this, and it should come right out like that. There we go. And I stack all the parts over in the mat, and so I don't have to worry. They're all, make sure the screws and the parts are all combined. They're together. Now this guy here, it either goes clockwise or counterclockwise, and it depends on the actual manufacturer. So what I typically do is I say, okay, is this going to go counterclockwise? So this is actually lefty-loosey this time. Sometimes you're lucky, and they'll take, the Swiss watches will score the screw so you know that it actually loosens the other way. It's lefty-tighty in those watches. So let me just get this wheel up here. This would be the crown wheel, or the crown. Just grab under here. Come on. Stop playing games. Stop it. I find if you yell at your watch, it's going to come apart easier. For some reason, it's being stupid here. Okay, there we go. And this comes in a couple of pieces, so you got to punch that main thing out of there, but I'll do that later. And this here, so so I can probably take the main plate off first. This plate here actually off first, and then straight up. I'll leave this attached first, and I'll remove these screws here. And sometimes with these old watches, the screws are like in really good. I like to loosen the screw and take it out, and then loosen the next screw and take it out. Some watchmakers loosen them all and then remove them, and I don't like that policy. I like to make sure that I've got that screw out of the way. And the same with putting them in and tightening them. Same thing. Same deal, man. Same deal. Now, I still have to put this watch. This is the screw for the face, right? So I still have to put that back. So remind me later, okay? So let me just grab this one here. And there's knurls on here, alignment knobbies, I'll say. And they help keep this thing in place while you're taking it apart. So you just have to be super careful. Anal retentive, I'll say, right? So when you get it down to this point here, you need to get a smaller screwdriver because you want to wedge it in and just raise it up a bit like that. Like that there. And then you get your tweezers in here at an angle. Now this is a joy because it's not a full plate watch. Because I've been doing full plate pocket watches for a little while now. Take under my microscope, I'll have a look at those jewels to make sure there's no major issues. And so that plate is out, and I always take a photo, right? When I'm disassembling the watch, I take a quick photo, so just in case there's some crazy thing that you need to do, and I forget it. So there's the center wheel. So as the wheel counts go, that's the second wheel. The first wheel is actually the mainspring barrel. I can't take this wheel out until this is out, so I don't need to strip any of that out of the way. I just need to remove the this plate here, and I'll be exposing the all the setting mechanisms. Now, for my own watch, or if it's a super high-end watch, I might strip down the setting mechanisms of the watch. But you know, I've talked to other watchmakers, and there is always that chance that one of those springs breaks, and I've recently just been putting the whole thing through the cleaner, and it's coming out really nice. So, and then I oil it, of course. I have to let it dry, and I usually let it dry overnight. So there's absolutely no remaining liquid or anything from the cleaner that I have that could affect the watch. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But again, it depends on the watch. So this is an old Waltham. If it's a super high grade Hamilton watch, I might take it apart right down to its bare bones. So I should be able to lift that straight up. There we go. And then I'll be examining this as well. There's no jewels here. One thing that can happen is wear on the hole in the plate for the barrel, so you keep an eye on that. Keep an eye out for that. Don't think that wear is there just by having a quick look at it. Now this is the third wheel here, so it's 1, 2 that I took out already, and this is an intermediate wheel. So I take this one out, and again, watch out for the pivots. And when I put them on my mat, I make sure I turn them like this one here is the fourth wheel where the second hand goes. And if you look at that wheel there, it's got the second hand pivot. And so when I place it down, I place it like this, so that pivot doesn't have any chance of getting any damage at all. And same with the escapement. I look at the escapement, there's the pivots and the pinion for the escapement. Put that down, keep my hands away from everything, right? So, and then I can pull this straight out. And this is one of these barrels, I can tell looking at it right now that you have to basically twist it to get the arbor out, and then you can get at the spring after that. So I'll deal with that later. And then these are a bugger. I've worked on these before, and they're a big pain in the butt to actually strip this out and get it all back together again, especially this little spring here. So we'll address that later. And and even on the back end of this, if I can show you quickly, move this movement holder out a little bit. And if I look at the back end of this, and you see this here, this screw and plate has to be in place in order to actually allow you to get access to this part here. So it's a bit of a bugger to work on that way. So anyway, that's it. I'm not stripping any more down today, and I've got the grandchildren coming very soon. And if I just back the camera off a bit, you'll see the parts as they're laying down. I still have to take the barrel apart, and like I said, these barrels are a bit of a bugger because they basically, the arbor is on top, and you want to twist them, and they'll untwist from, I got to go the other way with it, they'll untwist from the barrel, and you'll be able to get access to it. So bit of a bugger. So there you go. So anyway, that's it. I'm JD. Thanks. I'm going to put these parts in this tray so I don't lose anything. And I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching so far.